16 months ago, very few of us knew much about GM at all, and rumours were flying about that we were to have a farm-scale evaluation site, which sounds very innocuous. But when we started investigating what was going on, the idea was that there would be an advertisement in our local newspapers, and 6 weeks after the planting would be taking place. So we had to really get our skates on, and in doing that, we formed a committee. This is not new to us, because in 1988, we had an issue with Unigate, which took several years, I might say, but these were planning applications, and we had consultation rights. With this, very little consultation rights, because the time scale is so short. Low Burnham had been put on a trial site, and the crop science company was Aventis, and there was a host farmer who was going to grow it. The host farmer happened to be also a contractor who took his equipment onto many, many other acres of land. We looked at this 20-acre site. They were going to plant half of it, 10 acres with the standard oilseed rape and 10 acres with the genetically modified oilseed rape. And we were very concerned about it, and so we called various meetings. The first meeting we had, we invited all the farmers who were concerned about it, the beekeepers, members of the public, Aventis, everybody who was interested in it. There was no limitation onto discussion or questions whatsoever. What we're concerned about is, in the Isle, we still have a medieval strip farming system, which means instead of just affecting 1 or 2 farmers, it affected 11 farmers, none of whom had been notified. The self-regulation system does not work. When we found all these anomalies, which should have been dealt with in consultation, we approached our MP, Ian Causey, who was excellent. He took all these worries we had, including the fact that they'd given the wrong site reference. Aventis was shocked when we told them that. But obviously, with all this thorough checking, how did they come to have the wrong site reference? And so this was brought up in a debate at the House of Westminster, and we subsequently obtained an unreserved public apology from Michael Meacher. We have it on tape and we have it on Hansard. So mistakes are being made on a regular basis. It's a huge learning curve that we've gone through in 16 months to find out what we have found out. And I've brought a lot of information with me today if anybody has any questions. We are concerned that the risk is too high, much too high, until there's been some research on what happens to the DNA. Food traceability. We think that along with other items in food that can be traced, so can GM if it's carried out properly. And so we want food that is labelled 0 GM. So there needs to be a halt to the whole issue until all these questions are answered. They're not answered to my satisfaction or any members of my committee. And we talk to people on a continual chain of events where we hold meetings, we approach people and tell them what we've found out. And the more we delve into it, the more we find out. And I advise you all to do the same. Ask the supermarket. Ask them which products have got GM in. And if they haven't got the answers, ring the trading standards and ask why they haven't been taken to court. Ask the restaurants. If you're visiting somebody in hospital, ask the hospitals. Ask a lot of questions until you get the answers. Thank you.
Each speaker had the opportunity to present their views, arguments or findings, before the floor was opened up to wider discussion. The debate quickly became very lively. Attendees asked questions and made statements on the many aspects of the GM argument that they found worrying or fascinating. The speakers gave answers that inspired and stimulated further debate, sometimes allaying fears, sometimes provoking further concern. It soon became abundantly clear that the debate would go on for some time. So here is just a taste of the debate and how it went.
What concerns me is that the government at the moment is spending a lot of money and effort onto monitoring and regulating genetically modified crop development. Who is going to be funding the work that needs to take that allergen out of the oilseed rape pollen on my behalf?
And the guess is, it's only a guesstimate, that it costs something of the order of $300 to $400 million to develop a new genetically modified plant to the state where you are allowed to put it on the market. And that has essentially squeezed out the small firms. So it's an excellent question. Who indeed is going to do that sort of funding? And the answer from many of the scientists say, well, it should be the government.
Would I be wrong in suggesting that GM is about the control of the world food market by profit-making multinational companies and nothing else?
One of these large companies has patented thousands of food products. That worries me. I thought we were all free to have any food we wanted, and all these patents are going forward at a great rate of knots in more and more patenting. What also concerns me, looking at patenting laws, I think they last 25 years. And I've tried to find out roughly the date that GM started. The ones that we're talking about now, it was 1987. And if you add your 25 years onto that, we get to the year 2002. What happens to them all then?
There are umpteen companies competing with one another to produce seeds. Monsanto said somewhere that their Roundup Ready construct has been backcrossed into 1,600 different cultivation strains. It's not a single market with a few bloated capitalists at the top.
But would it not equalise balance the whole thing if, besides being free to make what they want, these companies also bore the liability for any harm that was done? Then they could put their money where their mouth is.
What's generally the case about liability? To what extent is a car manufacturer responsible for somebody driving a car badly? I don't know. I don't know where liability arises in these. Who's responsible for anything going wrong with existing agricultural products?
Panels often have committees. They go to subcommittees. If you're very lucky, you go to a public inquiry, which lasts another 3 years. May I ask what this panel thinks will have happened by 2010, or will we all still be talking about it, not getting anywhere?
I'd be very interested in people's views on what would make that a genuine and valuable debate. I know we've all been talking about it for a long time. I've, as I said, personally been involved in these discussions for somewhere near 15 years, and sometimes I feel they haven't moved on very much. But I'd be interested to know what people feel would move the debate on, and on what sort of terms they would think that a government-sponsored debate is actually a useful thing to do. Because again, it's not worth pouring large amounts of public money into that exercise if people like yourselves don't feel it's worthwhile.